The victory of the National Army ended the war, ushering in an imperfect peace and a period of social reorganization that has no parallel in other European countries. Greece's restructuring was based on the army and its firm intention to remain in control even in peacetime over a population divided into two categories: right-thinking Greeks and those with a lesser national consciousness. The throne functioned as a political watchdog. The government of Konstantinos Karamanlis created conditions that fostered economic growth in the country, improved its position on the international scene, and promoted the development of cultural and tourism organizations. On the political level, the government put an end to the execution of imprisoned communists. The 1950s were also marked by both urban growth and emigration, as much of the rural population abandoned the countryside, either flocking to the cities in search of jobs or seeking work in Europe or overseas. At the end of that decade, the political map changed. Both with a resurgence of the left and with constant efforts to create a broad center space as a counterweight to the all-powerful National Radical Union led by Karamanlis, whose relationship with the throne was in crisis due to the palace's interference in political life. Meanwhile, in Cyprus, the struggle for union with Greece had intensified. Demonstrations in support of the Cypriot demand brought droves of young people into the streets of Athens in the first mass appearance of left-wing youth in such a role. With the new decade, the 1960s, the Centre Union Party made its appearance on the political stage and began its gradual rise to power. The overthrow of George Papandreou's vulnerable government in July 1965 has gone down in history as the apostasia, the apostasy, because it was caused by the defection of a number of MPs and the consequent loss of the party's parliamentary majority. The destabilization caused by the departure and self-exile of Konstantinos Karamanlis in 1963, the deaths of King Paul and Sophocles Venizelos in 1964, and the fall of the Centre Union Party upset the delicate post-Civil War balance. More than anything else, however, it was the emergence of the Lambrakis youth organization as a political force and the ascendance of the Papandreou government that gave rise to fears that the mechanisms that had prevailed in the post-Civil War state were beginning to unravel. The outcome was the coup of the 21st of April, 1967. For 7 years, the country was caught in the iron fist of a dictatorship. The resistance movement that developed early on was started by the generation that had been politically active before 1967. The resistance organizations grew out of all the pre-dictatorship political parties. Their activities ranged from direct action, such as the planting of explosives, to political pressuring through statements to foreign news networks. The junta arrested a large number of members of resistance organizations, and the movement subsided. What is interesting is that resistance fighters from different backgrounds were held in the same prisons and sent to the same places of exile. Thus, royalist officers, decorated in the battles of the Civil War, political staff of the conservative and centrist parties, and leading representatives of the communist left who had fought with the Republican Army in the Civil War were thrown together as prisoners of the junta. This shared experience and common struggle against the junta helped heal the deep divisions which had hitherto existed. It was the development of this positive climate that essentially brought the discord and rivalry of the Civil War era to an end. But while the resistance may have been dismantled, a new focus for action developed in 1972. This was the student movement, which involved young people whose political identities had been molded during the dictatorship. The highest points of this movement were the student occupation of the law school in early 1973 and of the National Technical University of Athens in November of that year. The killing of students abated the resistance and revealed the junta's most barbaric face. Its fall became inevitable, however, when in July 1974, the coup it organized against President Makarios led to the Turkish invasion of Cyprus. It was this tragic turn of events that brought the curtain down on the dictatorship, opening the way for a change of regime. The beginning of the historic regime change, Metapolitefsi, was dominated by the figure of Konstantinos Karamanlis, who took decisive action in a situation fraught with dangers and difficulties. Gradually, a new and unfamiliar political landscape was created, following the legislation of the communist left and the abolition of monarchy through a plebiscite that decided, by a large majority, in favor of a parliamentary republic. Gradually, the rise of the Pan-Hellenic socialist movement, PASOK, under Andreas Papandreou, would supplant the new democracy of Konstantinos Karamanlis and later Georgios Rallis. The PASOK victory in the elections of October 1981 marked the beginning of efforts to integrate into the body of the state certain political and social elements that inertia and political shortcomings in Greece's past had kept off the central political stage.